want to show you this in the dark so you can get an idea of your two-car mode, a day car and a night car. Couple of things that I would have really liked. Number one, the interior light being a bit like you get on the BMW X5, the Sky Lounge. You don't get that with this, but the pan roof is very nice. You do get the interior lighting down here and then either side of here, but it's not as much as perhaps I would have liked. I'd have liked a little bit more along here maybe, and maybe even in the vents. It's not an S-Class, mate. Anyway, just a quick couple of hacks here. When you touch the screen, by the way, this is not a fiddly system. People think that it is. If you can work a phone, but if you click multicolor and multicolor animation, as you're driving along, you can go from these various scenes, fire, red, dawn, blue, right, and it will just change as you go. Another feature I like, you just press home, you just switch up to themes, and you can have any theme you want, which changes everything in the cockpit. Scroll up again, and you've got favorites. So, for example, this is a sound, it's a hotkey for sound, so you can now see equalizer for the Burmester, and then you can create a favorite here so that your instrument cluster, the colors you like, and everything is set up as a favorite. I also just quickly want to show you how beautiful this is over here. You may not have seen this. So this is the progressive mode, this is classic, this is sport. The map does not come here, you just get the augmented reality and the arrows, but I think that's really nice. And then this button on the side will control everything on this side of the screen. Down here, of course, you've got your volume button. That's an ad brake. And then on the right hand side here you would have where your cruise would be. Steering wheel itself is, again, it's one of the best steering wheels. Is it the best steering wheel in the world? I'm going to say it is. Now, I've done this before, but this is the most feared junction in the United Kingdom. It's called the Magic Roundabout, and it's here in Swindon. It's a series of 5 roundabouts which orbit one giant roundabout. It was built in 1972, and back then there used to be a policeman who would stand on each corner of each bit of... Now, which lane do I need?
Now take the third exit at the roundabout,
third
and then
exit.
Immediately take the first exit at the roundabout, and then immediately take the second
exit
exit
the magic
at the roundabout.
That's what it is.
Take the second exit at the roundabout onto Magic Roundabout, and then immediately take the first exit at the roundabout.
Yeah. France...
Now take the...
Right, you can shut up, love. France has the largest number of roundabouts, 30,000. In America, obviously, as you know, they don't have roundabouts, but in the United Kingdom, they're supposed to prevent accidents by around 90%. Anyway, there was no greater challenge for the augmented reality than that. Now, this seat is worth a mention because it is an unusual one, because normally with an SUV you kind of sit sort of on the seat. With this you sit in it. It's more sporty and snug. This whole cabin is actually snug. For example, you've got quite a small windscreen. The seat itself, if you look here, there's not really that much room either side of my legs. So if you are a bigger person or you've got something wrong with your back, I think these seats are going to be too small for you. If you want something sporty and involving and lots of quality, then yes. Unfortunately, you can't get the normal seats. You used to be able to get the normal seats. Worth a mention that. These are the new tail lights, which are not drastically different, but they're enough to make you think, oh, no, I don't want mine now, I want the new one. Excellent. The front ones are very good as well. And GLC. So G stands for Geländenwagen, which means terrain vehicle. L stands for luxury, because it is. And C stands for C-Class, where they make this at the same time in the same factory. E stands for a bit electric. Quick chat about this particular version. This is the 300E, so it's a plug-in hybrid. Unlike a Lexus, you do have to plug this in. So it runs with a 2-litre 4-cylinder petrol engine and a 7-kilowatt battery, giving you something like 30 miles of electric-only range. Now, you can charge this at home using a normal plug socket in about 5 or 6 hours, and from a 7-kilowatt charger at home in about 40 minutes. And a 7-kilowatt charger will cost you from £449. The main advantage of this one, of course, for me is how quiet it is. and obviously how economical it is compared to, say, the GLC 43 or the 63, which you'd recommend. But I do think, would this be something you'd consider over the 220D? That's interesting. What about the headline? 320 horsepower. That is incredible, giving you a lot of instant torque, and it feels a lot more than it is. It also does 117 miles to the gallon. Let's see how accurate that is. Hey Mercedes,
How can I help?
what's my miles to the gallon?
Your average consumption since the start of the journey is 0 miles per
100
gallon, and since the last reset, 34.0 miles per gallon.
On now to the suspension, which is coil springs or Straudenfender. Hello Germany. I quite like the idea that you can actually see the suspension. That gives you that feeling that you're in a 4x4, all-purpose, all-wheel drive, always four-wheel drive car. Very nice. And actually, the suspension I think has been improved. The original GLCs I think were a little bit too harsh on the sport suspension. This I think you'll probably quite like. You can't have the air unless you go for the 43 or the 63, but you'll be all right with this. I would say, if I was going to describe this suspension, I would say it's a little bit knobbly in town over bad surfaces, but overall, it's actually very comfortable. Good old Schradenwagen. Then there's the size itself, because obviously this is a medium-sized SUV, but it doesn't feel or look like that. It doesn't look like or feel like it's in the middle of anything. So, for example, the Audi Q3, Q5, Q7, this would be the Q5. This just feels like its own SUV, and it is one of the nicest looking things that you can get. Another thing I like is the fact that Mercedes were first with driver automation. In 1999, they were the first manufacturer to bring about radar cruise, which is now obviously on a lot of cars, but Mercedes have had quite a lot of practice. Now, this car doesn't have it, but it does have active brake assist, which is where the car will take over for you if it thinks there's going to be an accident and you haven't applied the brake correctly. It's very unnerving when it happens, but also very safe. And that's probably why 85% of people in Germany associate this car with the word safety. If you're not impressed so far, you will like this, the new improved Mercedes Benz Me app, which not just controls the car, but controls your house. For example, if you're in the car, you can say, "Hey Mercedes, turn on the lights." Or if you're in the house, you can say, "Hey Alexa, ask Mercedes to switch the engine on." But of course, above all is the driving experience itself, because there isn't really any other car that can give you that feeling of special quite like a Mercedes Benz, right? It's almost like a magic formula to make it okay for you to spend money. If an alien, for example, came from down, an alien came down and then went out in the BMW, the VW and say the Mercedes, the alien would say the Mercedes does feel like the one that makes you feel the most special.
How special you want to feel will be down to you. The GLC, of course, also stands out on price. It is not cheap. In some cases, double the price of one of these, which we reviewed earlier. But as Mercedes have always said, money you spend on yourself is money well spent, because you only get one you.
They didn't actually say that. I just made that up. Should we just leave that in?
Okay.